Oh, that's interesting. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about that because this is the big voter fraud theory, right?
No,
I think that voter fraud is a problem.
In election.
So is it your testimony you don't think that voter fraud is a problem? Is that you never talk about any actual evidence?
I didn't say that. I said I have no.
Do you have any evidence ever, any data? You like to, with your snarky attitude, helpful in executing that authority if you knew what your authority was.
If you knew what your authority was, I yell back. So Dan Goldman just screamed at Kristi Noem right to her face about how her and Trump are planning to rig the midterm election. And Kristi Noem started getting nervous, saying she had never heard of it. Let's look at this.
Secretary Noem, about 3 weeks ago, you stood at a press conference and said, and I quote here, "When it gets to election day, we've been proactive to make sure we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country." We all know what you mean and meant by the right people voting to elect the right leaders, but I want to narrow in on a different part of it. What proactive measures have you taken to make sure that the right people vote for the right leaders?
The job of the Department of Homeland Security is to secure our critical infrastructure, and elections are deemed by statute in law
I understand
as
that.
critical
That's
infrastructure.
long before. What proactive measures
so what that
have you
means
taken?
is that we go forward and identify vulnerabilities that may exist in that system, and then how that applies to elections is talking with states who run elections, identify and help them see how they can possibly be compromised.
I understand, yes, CISA
and then we
is supposed
offer,
to do that, but let's
mitigation.
discuss, if we don't mind, just to reclaim my time because I want to move forward, some of the other possibilities that have been floated for how you will take or might take proactive measures to, quote unquote, make sure that the right people vote and elect the right leaders. Yesterday in the Senate hearing, you were asked a couple times about whether you would or would not station immigration agents at polling sites. A couple of times you said you had no plans to do so. Is that still your testimony?
That is, I have no plans.
Okay,
no
so we
reason.
all know that no plans today can turn into full plans tomorrow, so it doesn't answer the question. And you're still, am I right, unwilling to say that you will not send DHS agents to polling places. Is that correct?
I'm not certain why you and the Democrat Party are so concerned that that would actually happen. That must mean that you're indicating people would be showing up at the polls to vote illegally, or that you would want illegal aliens to
Okay, so let's talk about that because this is the big voter fraud theory, right?
No, it's.
You're aware of the Heritage Foundation, right?
Because I have not recommended.
Are you aware of the Heritage Foundation?
Yes, I am, but I have not recommended.
So the Heritage Foundation, correct me if I'm wrong, is a right-wing think tank, created, drafted Project 2025, and it's been on a crusade to convince the American people that voter fraud by undocumented immigrants is a big deal. You know what the problem is? Is that you never talk about any actual evidence. And in fact, the Heritage Foundation's own information, its own data, says that in the 32 years from 1992 to 2024, out of 2 billion votes cast, 10 undocumented immigrants were found to have committed voter fraud. 10 out of 2 billion. Does that sound like a significant problem to you, that your answer about why you might put immigration agents is because there's voter fraud?
Individuals there, and I would think that if you have one
so you don't
person
think that
voting
voter fraud is a problem
in election.
So is it your testimony you don't think that voter fraud is a problem now?
I didn't say that. I said I have no.
Do you have any evidence ever, any data,
There are
anything?
illegal immigrants that have voted in elections.
Yeah, they're 10.
That has happened.
They're 10.
And you
Do
think
you have evidence more of that? The last 30 years.
Are you arguing that they should be able to vote? Is that your argument today?
No, Madam Secretary.
Well,
I'm arguing that it doesn't
program?
ever materially impact an election, and yet
We've had
you like
elections
to,
in
with
this
your
country.
snarky attitude, throw back that we want undocumented immigrants to vote, which is absolute bogus. In reality, you want to create an excuse to terrorize our polling places. Not only that, are you familiar with this proposed executive order, 17 pages, that's been circulating?
I am not. What is it on?
It is a proposed executive order on establishing the security, integrity, and transparency of elections. And in it, it would propose that the president declare a national emergency, use executive authority to seize voting machines, and ban mail-in ballots. You've not seen this at all?
I have not read that, and I have not had those conversations with anyone at the White House.
You've not had any conversations with anyone at the White House. That's good to know. If you were asked to do any of those things, do you believe you have the constitutional authority to do that?
We are looking at the vulnerabilities to elections,
That's not my
making
question.
recommendations to states.
Do you
on what they
think
can
you have
do
the
to make sure they have
constitutional
secure
authority
elections.
to seize voting machines, to seize voter rolls, to prohibit mail-in ballots? Do you believe you have that constitutional
I've not
authority?
done an analysis on that, so I would not be able to speak as an
You're the
expert.
secretary of the department that is in charge of maintaining election security. You don't know what your authority is or is not?
My authority is to identify vulnerabilities and to recommend
Well, it would be
mitigation
helpful in
measures.
executing that authority if you knew what your authority was.
Time of the
I do
gentleman.
know
I yield
my
back.
authority is.
I do think the secretary knows the right people voting are citizens, something that we passed the bill to make sure that happens. And I assume that's what she was referencing when she made that statement.
You should look at the Heritage Foundation
reckon-
study too, Mr. Chairman.
No, I'll be happy to look at it. I just think citizens should vote. You guys think that that shouldn't be a
So
requirement.
do we.
I now
So
want
do
to
we.
recognize
It's just
the
not an issue. It's not a
former
problem,
Attorney
and yet you
General.
keep talking about it.
Gentleman's time has expired. I now want to recognize the former.
This exchange highlights a recurring tension in American politics: the balance between election security and voter access. While both sides agree that only eligible citizens should vote, they strongly disagree about whether current safeguards are sufficient or whether stronger enforcement measures are needed. Congressional hearings like this often reveal not just policy disagreements, but also deeper conflicts about how risks are defined and communicated to the public. So what do you think? Are these concerns about voter fraud justified safeguards, or do they risk undermining confidence in elections without clear evidence? Let us know your perspective in the comments. And if you value thoughtful, fact-based political analysis like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow for more in-depth breakdowns of the stories shaping today's political landscape.